This video is brought to you by Hiawatha Hobbies. Hiawatha has you covered for all your model railroading needs, whatever scale or era you model. Use code SD40-2 at checkout to receive 5% off your next order. Be sure to check them out at the link in the description. Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Scale Trains SD40-2s in the BNSF paint scheme in both rivet counter and operator versions. I got both of these models on loan from Hiawatha Hobbies, and if you want to pick some up for yourself, be sure to check them out in the link in the description. The EMD SD40-2 was introduced in January 1972 as part of EMD's -2 series, competing against the GE U30C and Alco Sentry 630. Although higher horsepower locomotives were available, including EMD's own SD45-2, the reliability and versatility of the 3,000 horsepower SD40-2 made it one of the best-selling models in EMD's history, with a total of 3,982 built. The last SD40-2 to be delivered to a United States railroad was built in July 1984, and as of 2013, nearly all built SD40-2s remain in service, which is a testament to the reliability of EMD locomotives. The packaging on the rivet counter model is very well done, and it will hold the model in for many years to come. Inside the box there is a user manual, which is very nice to have, and has a couple nice pieces of information. The locomotive itself is packaged inside a block of ice, which is surrounded by foam in the box. To take the locomotive out, you have to take off this plastic sheath, unclip the box on this end, and then lift the locomotive out. Before you set it down, you're going to want to remove these truck retainers to make sure that it doesn't fall over. And then you can take the handrail protectors out and see the model in all of its glory. This model is in the BNSF Heritage 1 paint scheme, and retail on it for the DC version is $149.99, and the DCC and Sound version is $224.99. I compared this model to pictures of the prototype, and it's an exact match. Starting off on the front of the locomotive, here we have a metal knuckle coupler on the front. You got the air hoses, grab irons on top of the snowplow, and an MU cable. Illuminated ditch lights, which look very good, and there's not a lot of light bleed on these, which is nice. Moving up to the nose, here's the BNSF logo, which looks very good and very crisp. There are grab irons on each side of the BNSF logo, and here is the nose-mounted headlight and plated over class lights, which is realistic for this model. Up here's the plated over headlight, and then number boards on each side, which are lit, but these number boards are not separately controlled on the Scale Trains units for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but they're not. Being the super detailed version, this model does have separately applied windshield wipers, which look very nice. Moving on to the side of the locomotive, you can see the abnormally small number on the side here, which actually is realistic. And the cab windows on the rivet counter models do open, which is pretty cool, revealing a very detailed cab interior, which is very hard to see on video. Here you have a mirror and separately applied brass sunshades. Moving down, you have all of the warning labels all on the doors, which look very good. Both of the lines here for the BNSF paint scheme look very good and are very sharp. The BNSF logo is sharp as well. Here's the dynamic brake hatch with that very nice looking radiator section. And if you look at these radiators over here, it looks like they've been airbrushed slightly to make them a little different color to make them look better. You can also see the horn in the correct placement for this locomotive. On the rear of the locomotive, you have your die-cast metal knuckle coupler, MU hoses, air hose, and then extra knuckles on the rear as well, along with a coupler cut bar. Here you have all of the wire grab irons going down the side of the locomotive, all of your plated over class lights, LED illuminated number boards, and headlight. One thing that I like that Scale Trains did with this unit was they have the number up here along with the number boards, which is realistic for 7165. On the top here, you can see the etched metal radiator fan grills along with the separately applied fans on the inside of that. Now the next challenge for someone to do is to make all of these actually spin just like the prototype would. You might be able to see that in the stepwells here, there is a little ground light right here. This is not lit, but it's a nice touch anyways. And there are little safety stripes along each step, which is a nice touch. This unit has my favorite feature of pretty much any locomotive, and that is see-through steps. I really like how these look, and I think the Scale Trains did a good job with them. Looking at the trucks of the locomotive, you can see the separately applied brake cylinders, along with this brake line up top here, and a speed recorder. As for fuel tank detail, there is not a whole lot, but there is a spitter valve on the side here, some piping coming off the end here, and these are painted separately to make them more realistic. The bell is mounted right here, and then in there you can see all of that traction motor wiring, which looks very good and runs the entire length of the frame. One small problem that I noticed on these units is that these sanding valves, which look very nice, sometimes catch on the trucks on my tight radius curves, and I would be afraid that they're going to snap off over time. In my opinion, I would prefer if scale trains would put these in a separate bag in the box itself instead of installing them on the locomotive. I do like how they look, and I think that a lot of people would like them on their locomotives, but for some cases I feel that it would be better just to have them as a separate part instead of having them possibly break off. One thing exclusive to the Rivet counter model is it is equipped with a capacitor to keep the locomotive running over small interruptions of track. When I lifted the locomotive off the tracks, it stayed on completely for about 4.5 seconds before shutting off. The operator packaging is very similar to the Rivet counter packaging. The only difference is the outside box. It doesn't have any of the extra foam. You slide the locomotive out of the box, you have a user manual inside as well. You can take the plastic sheath off, unclip the box, and lift the locomotive out. And this also does have truck retainers, and you're going to want to make sure you take those off before setting the locomotive down. One nice thing about this operator model is that it shares the same underframe and driveline with the Rivet counter model. So you're going to have the same very smooth performance as the Rivet counter model, but for the nice operator price. The only thing that really sets the operator model apart from the Rivet counter is it will not have that super awesome capacitor that keeps the locomotive running over short dead spots. Now let's move on to the operator version. This unit is equipped with DCC and sound, but you can get it DCC ready. The retail on that is $89.99, and the sound version retails for $134.99. This unit is in the BNSF Heritage 3 paint scheme, which looks very good. Unfortunately, you cannot get this paint scheme in the Rivet counter version yet, although I'm sure that Scale Trains is going to release this paint scheme in the Rivet counter line eventually. Since this is the more budget model, it's going to be less detailed than the Rivet counter version, although everything is based on the Rivet counter model. So the driveline and decoder are all going to be the same, but it's not going to have the super detailing that the Rivet counter model has, although it's going to run just as well and sound just as good as the Rivet counter one does. So for instance, prototype 1938 would have had deck-mounted ditch lights right here, but the operator model does not have those to save on cost. And the steps are also see-through, which I really like. Starting on the front of the locomotive, you've got the plastic knuckle coupler, the snowplow, holes where you could add air hoses if you wanted to, the handrails, and then here are the class lights, which have little plastic inserts to make them look see-through. BNSF logo looks very good, and right below that, there are little pre-drilled holes for where you could add grab irons should you want to. Up a little further are the number boards, which are lit but not separately controlled, and the LED illuminated headlight, along with the separately applied horn. There are no windshield wipers on this model, but there are pre-drilled holes above the windows if you want to apply them. Moving down the side of the locomotive, you might just be able to see inside of the cab there is a full interior just like the Rivet counter model, although the windows on the operator do not open like the ones on the Rivet counter model do, just to save on cost. All of the printing on this model is very well done, and I didn't notice any major paint bleed. Moving down a little farther, you have the dynamic brake hatch, the BNSF logo, which looks very good. Moving on to the rear of the locomotive, you just have that same plastic knuckle coupler again, illuminated number boards, the class lights, which are not lit, and then the headlight. And all on this side of the locomotive and right here, there are the pre-drilled holes again for grab irons. I really think that it's cool that Scale Trains pre-drills the holes because that makes it a little bit easier to super detail these models. Truck detail is actually pretty good for such a budget locomotive. There's a little chain here with a spring on the end of it, and then there's all of the little cylinders and then a couple other small details on them. The fuel tank area is also pretty well detailed. You have little hoses coming off of the air tanks, and then these are separately painted red just to make them pop a little bit. And then the bell is also right here. Now let's look at some of the sounds this model has. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.